Alright, boys and girls. You wondering if the 572 XP is a reliable saw or not? As you can see, if you follow the channel, I bought this saw pretty much exactly 1 year ago. I do work full-time, not in the woods, so I do firewood and I do some logging in my free time. But I had this saw down to the Husqvarna shop the other day. I got the guys to plug it in for me, and we've got 150 hours onto it. So most of those hours are cutting firewood, junking firewood, and probably a quarter or a third of the hours is like logging, lot clearing, so on and so forth. So I've got a 390, which I bought this saw brand new a year before I bought this one. I've got a 20-inch bar, Cannon bar on my 390. I've got an 18 on the 572. I hardly ever find myself using this 390 anymore. The 572 is just so much lighter, so much more responsive. The kickback is way less severe. That 390, that's just that's a monster to hold on to, especially when you got it real sharp and the dog's filed down. So I honestly can't brag this saw up enough. It's proven itself in many circumstances. If you follow the channel, look back when I first bought this saw, I junked a cord of hardwood, average size hardwood, not monster hardwood, in 20 minutes flat with this thing. And also in the woods logging trees, especially if you're in big spruce with big bough limbs or big pine. This thing just has the power to really let that chain just rip the whole time. It's never in a bog state. It does hold a fair bit of fuel. It's a bigger saw, so that's to be expected. The maintenance on this thing has been little to none. I mean, keeping it cleaned up is really the hardest part. I think I'm on my third air filter, so about every 50 hours I don't really bother cleaning them out. They're an interchangeable paper filter, so just buy a new one. The saw is $1,500 if you blow it up, so a $25 filter is kind of irrelevant. Still can't brag this up enough. This really smart side cover design, that when you're in the woods you take these nuts off, they don't fall on the ground. They're fastened to the case on a floating washer. So when you're in the woods, your chain jumps off if you choose to pull the cover. You don't gotta go searching for these nuts in the ground afterwards. Myself, I usually just back the chain off, stand the saw up, get the chain really loose, and just ride it back on and then tighten it up. I usually hardly ever take the side cover actually completely off in the woods, but if you have to, this side cover is a much better design, more user-friendly, and the saw is super efficient. I mean, if you burn a tank of fuel through this, here's the funny part. I've got 150 hours in this saw. Last year I junked and sold probably 135, 140 cord of hardwood, and I also cut about 7 18-wheeler loads worth of logs. So for the amount of hours this saw run, it has cut just an outstanding amount of wood. And I do run stills at work, but I've got the boss switched over on Huskies for chainsaws. Stills make a pretty good bush saw. I got this old whippersnipper here that I bought that thing when I was 16 years old. It's an old 223R, and I put that through 3 wars and hell and back, and that still starts and works every time I go to use it. And we recently purchased this beast of a lawnmower. It's actually got a Honda engine onto it, and it's a 221 RH. Great little machine. One adjustment does all 4 wheels, and the bagging system is just great for taking on and off. The hooks just hook on either side here. All the cables have adjustments onto them, so as they wear over time, it's still going to work. So I've got 4 Husky products of my own that I can say for every one of them they work great. Had no issues with any of them whatsoever. This 390 here I've junked, wow, geez, I junked probably somewheres in the 300 cord area of firewood with this thing. And you just put gas into them, flick the choke on, give them a little prime, hit your decompression, especially on this one because it pulls quite hard. But great products, guys. I'm a strong Husky believer, and this thing has proven itself. A lot of people said, oh, you're gonna buy one of them, it's gonna blow up, blah blah blah. No. And I've used different types of mixing oil in these. You guys can agree with me or disagree, but this here is the best 2-stroke oil on the market in my eyes. I run that in the snowmobile, I run that in my saws, and I also run it in the old Arctic Cat there. But that Shell Gold 2-stroke oil is definitely your best lubricant for a 2-stroke motor that I think they have on the market as of now. But that being said, I've run Husky oil in these, and once in the odd blue moon, if I'm at work using my own saw, it's had some still oil put through it too. Nothing really seems to bother it, just mix it properly, obviously. And other than that, if you're wondering if this is a tough saw, if you should buy one, is it worth the money that they're asking for it? This thing here, if you're used to using a saw from 10-15 years ago, this will cut circles around it, trust me, boys and girls. This is a very, very, very fast working machine. Would not recommend going out and buying one of these if it's your first power saw. I'd start with something smaller like a 550, because I mean, this is not a toy. So nothing bad to say. The chain seems to stay onto it well. I haven't had, like I said, no issues with it. The handle, bushings, all the springs are still intact. I've had it in quite a few situations where I've been ripping and pulling onto it. I try not to do that too much. That's why I carry 2 saws when I go in the woods. But once in a while I've pulled onto it pretty good, and you know, nothing's let go. So very well built saw, very well engineered, very, very low kickback. And as you can see, it's quite a bit skinnier than the 390. Like I said, this here, lately I've been calling it the suitcase, because this here just does the job so much smarter and so much better.